So when the opportunity came to move to Toronto and be part of a hair salon, I jumped at it. Because I could be myself, because I could do my things, because I could work flexibly, and I love working with people. His furnace was stoked. I think that's what we have to find out is not what people are told they should do, it's what people want to do, and how do we make in Noosa? And that's what, because so many people think, my students say to me, well, I have to go into consultancy, I have to go into investments, I have to go into finance. And they call me back in 3 years crying on the phone, saying, how did you let me do that? Why? Well, because it was money, but it wasn't their creative furnace. And I think the great opportunity in our time, and this is true, now we have to make the matches. For us to grow our economy, we need to grow and develop our people. As we grow and develop our people, we stoke that furnace, they become more energized. And whether it's the hair salon or the surf shop or whatever it is, so we've got to figure out a way in Noosa to stoke it. And what I keep thinking of, my wife says sometimes I talk cryptically, and maybe it's the academic, and that's maybe why I need to work with the counselors and the mayors and the Stockwells and the developers and you to make it real. But I think we could create an environment here and a social ecology, an infrastructure where every person can find that dream. And if they come here with an idea of having a small business, maybe they have a little office somewhere. Maybe we make working spaces. They don't even need an office. They can work wherever, a coffee shop, a this, a that, or a lounge. Maybe we can build new kinds of places like that where people work. They call them the third place, not work, not home, the third place. Maybe when they grow a little, we can give them a flexi office. You know what I'm saying? But it's not a typical office. It's a nice office, and they love it, and they make it theirs, and they share it. And then when they grow bigger, maybe they can go out to Noosa Civic and have a cool office set there. But I think we have to make this a place where people feel, when they're thinking about doing their thing, Noosa is a place that we can do it. And I think if we believe that, if we do that, if we encourage it, and we help, and we talked about mentors. We talked about the demographics here, that you have older, you know what I'm saying, older people who've done the rat race and decided, and have the money, frankly, to be able to come here. And then younger people, what a nice match if we can create that mentoring. So those are the kind of things in stoking that furnace. And stoking that furnace, and I think it's interesting, the same part with the catalyst, 30 catalysts. Once we stoke the furnace, it's the first part. We got to keep it going. We can't let the pilot light go out. So we have to resource it. And we've seen this happen in so many communities. The people get the bug, but then there's nothing to harness it and resource it. So the follow-on over the course of the next year and further to make sure it's resourced and that people feel they can succeed. And somebody said this to me, maybe it was Mark. He said in Australia sometimes if you fail, you're down and out. In America, the one thing is if you fail, that's good. I'm not kidding you. When they say, if you failed 3 times, now we're going to put the money because you learned the hard knocks. We have to make it so the odds of failure are less and you can learn those lessons and move up quickly. That's the way we want to stoke that furnace.
You spoke of the education system there in the US and the model that obviously has gone wrong. Now, I've travelled the world quite extensively, and there's one question that people do ask me all the time, and that's what sort of education system do we have in Australia? Mm-hmm. My reply is that the education system we have in Australia is a system that you're always told you can do anything you want.
That's fantastic. And I think the thing about education, if we've talked about, in our conversations, we've talked about the barefoot executive, the free agent, making an environment where that person can feel that they don't have to wear a suit and a tie, that they can work to their own rhythms, that they can surf and use the water and be part of the community they want to be in. Actually, the education, I think, it has to make the similar change. Me and Rana, as we begin to work on a family, talk about this all the time. Do we want to put our kids in a traditional school, or do they want to have a more flexible environment? Now, I don't know anything about your educational environment here in Noosa, but I think this is a great principle. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. I think the thing that blew me away today, most of all, was the fact that you have a class in surfing in the school. I mean, this just blew my mind. And our coach was saying, and he was so phenomenal, and Ron and I were saying just how fantastic he was, but he said, it's for the kids who maybe don't like the other subjects. I was always good at some of those subjects. I wasn't as good as guitar. I was telling Mark, I was kind of a crappy athlete. But imagine if all the academic stuff was about being a good athlete or a good with tools, I would have been at the bottom. But I could memorize stuff and I could write pretty well, so I was a top student. If the tables were turned, I would have been the bottom with the dunce cap, right? So what if we made the school, like you're saying, a place where the different styles can all flourish? Because you know what? They're all great. And I may be great at thinking, but I'm not as great at doing. I need team members, partners to do, right? Like we're talking about your invention. I couldn't make that, but you can. And together, somebody can have an idea, someone can prototype that idea, someone can create that idea. I think that's the kind of educational environment. So that whole system in Noosa, from the education up to the business formation, and then people say, you know, and if they're young families, I have a young family, I need to be in Noosa because it has the best education for my kids.
I don't quite get it. I love the stuff you're saying, but what I can't work out is the sustainable part. A lot of your stuff's about effectively creating a magnet here that attracts people to come here, and that doesn't sit totally comfortably with sustainability.
I hear you. I do. I hear you. But I don't think people and economic growth necessarily have to be unsustainable. I think that's the real challenge of our time, because we can't run and hide forever. It's coming. And I mean, you know, I hate to say it, but it's coming to you. I mean, look where you are in the Pacific Rim, in the Pacific Century, with this wonderful plot of land, with this great water and great beach and great environment, in this booming state called Queensland, with all this kind of, to be quite frank, not the best, highest quality sustainable development all around you. So we got to figure this out. We've got to figure out a way to have economic growth and environmental sustainability. We've got to figure out a way to do it in a way that has the least environmental harm, because we're not just going to be able to keep, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, we're not just going to be able to hold back. The markets work and progress happens. I think that means being vigilant about the environment, being caring about the environment, making sure that the kinds of land uses and activities we have a low impact on the environment, making sure that we do not only the business park right, making sure that we do the housing right. And I think the other thing, the other part that I think you're right, it's going to be a challenge. The other challenge is going to be the affordability. I actually think creative, sustainable, inclusive, all making that triangle work together is a three-part challenge. Making sure it's the inclusive part. You know what I'm saying? As this happens, what's happening now is the housing prices are up and up and up and up and up and up, and it gets harder and harder to afford them. What I'm hoping is that through some creative thinking, through working together, we can figure out ways to generate the work, make sure the work is as environmentally sound as it can be, make sure the population growth, make sure the population additions can be done in a way that's environmentally least harmful, or hopefully not harmful at all, and in a way that can be inclusive. If we can do that, and I think we can do that, that's why I say those words mean a lot to me. Noosa Creative Alliance. If we can distill over the course of the next year a set of, just imagine with me, a set of principles that say this can be achieved. Just this can be achieved. Boy, oh boy, we'll have something not only that's great for us here in Noosa, but something that's important for the world. And I think it's going to be hard, but I think it can be done. I actually think it can be done.
How do we get on to becoming one of these 30?
Well, there are brochures right here. I'm not sure exactly where they are, but they'll be around. That we'll have a little book signing. We can get you one. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate other people. We're not going to dictate this process. The only thing we're going to do in providing oversight with other community leadership is to make sure the group is diverse. And when we say diverse, we just don't want it to be all surfers. We don't want it to be all business people. We don't want it to be all political people. We don't want it to be all boys. We don't want it to be all girls. We don't want it to be all old people and all young people. We want it to be a mix. So what we'll do is kind of figure out a way to balance it. We also would very much like people who have the heart. The heart is the key. The heart is the key. They believe, they want, but who are skeptical. I think we really want on this Catalyst groups people who are saying, look, we have some good things here, but maybe we can't put it together. We love Noosa, but maybe development is going too fast and it's not going to be sustainable. We want to make sure that it's not just, you know what I'm saying, the rah-rah true believers, but we want to make sure that it has a range of people, range of viewpoints. It's not going to be political, it's not going to be partisan, but it should be people who care about their town. And I'll tell you